From the hallowed halls of Epic Productions here in Red Bank, New Jersey, we are Infinity X, giving a stage and microphone to human excellence every single Tuesday. Replay available at weareinfinityx.com and We Are Infinity X YouTube. And folks, I have to share with you that I've been excited for podcasts. I've been excited for Infinity X in the past, but I can't tell you the last time I was excited as I am tonight. We are joined by human excellence this evening. We are joined by the originator of the Talent Concierge, none other than Connie Pheiff. Connie, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Folks, if you have a question for Connie at any point during the conversation tonight, please put it into the chat. We will get to it. And, once again, replay, weareinfinityx.com, We Are Infinity X YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And so, folks, we're joined again by Connie Pheiff. Connie is a megapreneur. She is a peak performance coach. She is a business consultant, and she runs an organization by the name of the Talent Concierge. And we're going to go real deep into the value proposition of who she is, of what she does, of the different summits that she runs on a month-over-month basis. And by the way, how we may, in fact, be looking at an opportunity for these two ecosystems to merge and for partnership. But I always want to put out to the good folks that join us each and every single week live that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you're from. So Connie, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your background.
We don't have enough time to talk about that. So let me start. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, originally is where I'm from. Quickly moved on, raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I lived and grew up with my grandmother, and graduated from Scranton High School, and went off to college. It took me about 20 years to complete, but I did it. Finished college.
Where'd you go?
Well, I started at the University of Scranton, and I actually finished my master's degree at the University of Phoenix.
Incredible. Wow. Okay. So was that when University of Phoenix was really just starting to become more popular, because it's super popular now?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, super popular now. This is when they were really just starting. And I took advantage of the online programs because at that time, well, initially when I went to school, I stopped, I became a mom, had two beautiful adult children, they are now. And so I stopped going to school. And then when I got divorced, decided to go back to school. So I was taking nighttime classes, nighttime programs. So it was very hard to go into a classroom when you had young children. So quit again. And then later on, after losing my position, I was CEO, worked my way up. I was CEO with Girl Scouts. And then they did this huge realignment in 2006.
Pause. Hold on. Hold the phone, folks. Did you just hear that she was the CEO of the Girl Scouts? Oh, wait.
Of Penn's Woods Council. We have to get clear. Of Penn's Woods Council. Right. So they did a big realignment, a big merger, and they wanted the new CEO to have a PhD. Well, at that time, I still hadn't even finished my bachelor's degree. So I said, okay, I am going to make a commitment right now that I am going to finish it. So I did. I went back, went through the University of Phoenix, and that's when they were really getting into their online programs. And I thought, that's perfect for me. And I like challenging and, working out of status quo, if you will. So that's where I went. So I finished the bachelor's, and then I thought, well, let's continue. And then I went into and did a master's, and then I considered doing a PhD. But at that point, I thought, I think I have enough now.
There's enough writing on the wall, right?
Yeah, there's enough now. And then I never went back to corporate. Then I said,
of that. I love that, folks. This is Connie Pheiff, CEO of the Talent Concierge. We Are Infinity X. And Connie, so you grew up in Scranton, right? And I know that area. That's relatively blue collar, right?
Yes.
But when was it that you identified that I don't even want to say that you had the entrepreneurial spirit, because I think you're either born with that or you're not. But when did you start to identify, whether it was, it was during your first marriage, perhaps, or a specific point where you said, I identify that there's a career path for me from a corporate perspective, but I don't see it being in my future. And I want to have more maintenance and control over my destiny and what I build out. And like, when did that start to become evident for you?
When I was about 9 years old.
Wow.
Seriously. Because I mentioned I lived with my grandmother and living with her, part of my role at that young age was taking care of the house, meaning babysitting, doing chores for the neighbors. And I was grooming to be an entrepreneur, not realizing what that even meant at that point. But all the while in my mind saying, no, I want to go to college. I don't want this lifestyle. Like I said, it's very blue collar. I don't want this lifestyle. No one at that point in my family had not only graduated, not only not go to college, they didn't even finish high school.
Wow.
They were coal miners. That's who the family was. They were coal miners. And I was just determined I did not want to live that lifestyle. All the women went to the sewing factory. And my grandmother, I don't even know what age I was. I mean, I had a bicycle with the basket on, so I got to ride around town and, pick up all these odd jobs. And so then, she would say, well, when you're 16, we'll make sure we save up enough money to buy you a car so you could quit school and you can get more jobs. And you could go work in the sewing factory and you could, and I would think, oh, no. And I mean, I would, school wasn't important. I slept in the same room as her because she was very sickly. So all through the night, I had to make sure she had her medication and, her needs were taken care of. And then during the day, care for 13 of my cousins and siblings that would come to the house. So I would sit at night under my blanket doing my homework because, again, in most families that I knew at that point, if you didn't do your homework, like you were in trouble. And for me, it was, well, why are you doing homework? There was no sense for this. You're going to be quitting school. And I was just determined. I was not going to quit school. I wanted this degree. Took me 20 years. I got that damn degree.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know what the term assumptive close is, her family was doing an assumptive close that she was not going to conclude college and that she was going to, or even schooling for that matter, just go in and just follow the herd. Right. And I think, one of the things, Connie, that we're going to go really deep on is how your company and your value proposition to entrepreneurs and to people who are, whether they're artists, they're entertainers, they're athletes, can't follow the herd of brand recognition, can't follow the herd of doubling down on their business, follow the herd of the masses of wealth accumulation, right? Because those things don't work. And they're showing us every day that they don't work. But, just going back into, the graduate work and the grind that you put in, when you were downsized from corporate, right? What was the feeling inside of you, and what pushed you to say, well, you know what? Most people are going to go on to, are going to hire a recruiter, are going to go into, any outlet that they can find in order to get a similar 9-to-5 style, corporate role, because that's what the herd is told that they need to do. No, you did something completely different, didn't you?
But I started by hiring a resume writer. I went down that path. I did. And I interviewed. And because at this point, following the herd, okay, this is what I wanted. I wanted to be in corporate. I wanted to be a CEO. This is what I wanted. When I realized, and going back to your previous question, was when I finished school, that's when I came to realize that I didn't want to follow the herd, and I never did. And that's why I always felt that I didn't fit in the mold of being in corporate. I always felt that I was, trying to fit in, I was a square peg trying to fit into that round hole. And that was the one awakening that I had for myself, was that I know how to be an entrepreneur. I did that as a young kid. I was caring for a woman and all of these other people. I could be an entrepreneur. I could do this myself. So talk about a family looking at you like you have 10 heads. I know. They're like, you did what? And you did what? And you doing what? I said, I'm not going back to corporate. I'm going to start my own company. And this is what I'm going to do.
What was the vision for the company at that time?
The vision for the company at that point, we started as Pheiff and Son. The vision of the company at that point was to work with other nonprofit organization executives. Because initially, going back a lot of years, I was a financial advisor. And so I have that financial acumen, and I did a lot of study around finances. And so the initial vision for that was to help other executives and show them that there is a path forward, show them that there is a plan B, show them that there is another way to live your life. And why that came to be was because I started getting phone calls from other executives saying, how did you get out? How did you do it? How did you figure this out? And I sat there with my margaritas around the pool thinking, wow, the perception that I'm doing wonderful is really
good. These days, when you go on Instagram, it's the folks standing next to the Lamborghinis that they don't own,
Right, that they don't own. Exactly. And I just thought, I think I got a sweet spot here. So that's how it started. And then I still finished school, got my degrees, and people were like, well, okay, you finally got your degree and now you're starting your own company. What was the purpose of getting your degree? I said, it fulfilled me. It fulfilled my soul, and it gave me the confidence knowing that I know this stuff, but now I have the piece of paper to prove that I know this stuff. And that was always a challenge whenever I was, going or wanted to go to a new level, in my corporate position. Well, you don't have a degree. You don't have this. I actually got a job because I argued the point, well, Steve Jobs doesn't have a degree.
Right.
I got hired.
But yeah, absolutely. Folks, we are Infinity X. This is Connie Pheiff, CEO of the Talent Concierge. Replay on weareinfinityx.com and YouTube. And so, Connie, you launched the business, right? You obviously wrote out a business plan, I would assume.
Yes.
And what were some of the first action steps that you took when you were launching the branding of the business, to ensure and to insulate that there was going to be cash flow coming in the door as you were looking to build out the brand?
Yes, there was a business plan initially. Then there was a marketing plan within that. Then there was a budget. Again, with me, it's always around where is that money coming from? So then there was a budget put into place as well. And then I reached out. I had some investors that were going to help me build that business. So I did that. So I had some investors. And then the first thing I did was to reach out to people that I knew that I had been working with all of these years. And that I knew that, that I had trust with them and reputation with them. So I started a process of what I called reverse interviews.
Reverse interviews. Interesting.
Reverse interviews, yes. And I did the same thing, and I'm jumping forward, but when we moved to Los Angeles, I did the same thing because I was in a new community. And although we're working globally now, it's still really good to get this core list of people who are on your side that you can pick up the phone at any moment in time and say, I need X, and have them say, hang on, I'll take care of it for you. And I have a lot of people I could do that with now. So yeah, reverse interviews. So what it is, I would at that point, I would call somebody that I knew in a highly regarded position and say, hey, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. I want to get together with you, started a business. This is what I'm doing now. And I want to get your feedback on my marketing plan. I want to get your feedback on my business plan. And then when I'm sitting with them and talking with them, then I would also go with a list of names of other people I wanted to meet in the community and see who they knew and who they would recommend and make that introduction for me. Sure. And then I would leave it with, if there's something that you need from me, please give me a call. We'll do it. I did that, I don't know, the first couple of months. That's all I did. Reverse interviews. I just kept doing it over and over and over and over again. Sure. That first month, I exceeded my budget goal just by doing that.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And who was do you recall the first client to retain you?
Yes, I do. PNC Bank.
Whoa. Okay, everybody stop the presses. Okay, pause right here. So it wasn't John Smith, right, from down the street. The first client that retained Connie and her consulting services, which I want to go a little bit deeper into, was PNC Bank. That's PNC Bank. That doesn't grow on trees. How did this happen, Connie?
Again, someone that I knew. I mean, it still goes back to who you know and building those relationships.
Yep.
And so, and I build the foundation of my company on those relationships. So I guess I could say his name, Bob Stanley. He was on my board of directors from the chamber at the Girl Scouts. Bob, he just became a great friend. He was an executive at PNC Bank. So when this all happened and I was reaching out, doing my reverse interviews, and so, through conversation, and this is what I'm looking for, he came back to me and said, okay, we're looking for someone to be a face in the community, organize different events and lunches and gatherings, and you just happen to know a lot of people. So we would like to retain you for that job, for that consulting position. And that's what I did.
Incredible. And then what happened next?
So let's see, from PNC Bank, I'm trying to think where else. There was a couple of insurance companies. So again, you're hearing banking, insurance, companies that I went with. And then there was a group, this was in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. And I just happened to speak to the woman today, called CE Options, CEO or CE Options. So they're a consulting group and they work with corporations, executives. And they had a really fabulous model. So I started working with them. So I thought, well, about this time, the Girl Scouts had called me. The new CEO of the Girl Scouts had called me, asking me if I would work with her, coach her, mentor her. And I thought, no. I was like, no, why would I do that? But then after a while and after thinking about that, I went, oh, you know what? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I could charge a lot of money. And I did that. But I didn't, I wasn't certified as a coach. I didn't have any of that certification. So I just want to be very clear and be in integrity when I was doing that type of work. So this group, so CE Options, again, I knew Mary Jane from there. And she's like, well, why don't you come on board and you'll go through like a junior trainer consultant and you'll learn all the process. And then, and so I'm like, okay, that sounds like a really cool thing. So I went through, I got to meet a lot of corporate executives talking again about the next season of life. Fabulous. And so I did that. And then from there, I started speaking. And my first speaking engagement was for the Women's Business Council in Georgia. And so that was...
Can I ask a real quick question around that? Because
sure.
When you transition into speaking, listen, first and foremost, when you're coaching, you have to model around, in my opinion anyway, you model yourself around other coaches, right? To a degree, right? And take pieces from them. And then also when you move into speaking, you model after specific speakers that had influence on your approach and your style towards towards addressing an audience. So who are some of those coaches and speakers that you initially started to model yourself after?
So the coaches initially is Dan Miller.
Okay.
And Dan Miller, so when I was going, got invited to the Georgia Women's Conference, that was about the time, and I know I've shared this with you, of why I lived with my grandmother. That was about the time that I had learned that I was adopted and that my father wasn't my father. And so there was a lot of things coming up, a lot of emotions, a lot of I don't knows, and so this Dan Miller kept coming up, and several people kept saying, you need to see Dan, you need to see Dan. And I was like, I don't need a coach.
Yeah.
CEO, I don't need a coach. I got all of these coaching.
I have it all figured out already, right? Yeah.
I got it figured out. I don't need a coach. So they kept telling me this. So now I go to the Georgia conference and somebody says to me, you need to see Dan Miller. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? So they said, he's located in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I found out my true family was, in Nashville, Tennessee. So I was like, okay, I got to go. There's a connection here. Got to go.
Yep.
So Dan and I, friends to today. And that's where I ended up getting all of my coaching certifications, was through his group, 48 days. And I called him on a Sunday. He said, we have our next program starting tomorrow. I'm sitting in Kingston, Pennsylvania. And I said, okay, I'll be there. And my husband said, where are you going? I said, I'm driving to Nashville. 15 hours, we could do that. And away I went. I didn't know where I was going or where I was staying. I just knew I was going to this program for the week. I had to be there. So I left again, like I said, signing up to get certified as a coach. I know personality assessments. I'm certified in 7 different ones now. And so Dan is just very, very clear, very direct. I'm a very, very direct person. And sometimes people don't take that well, but he's just a very direct person. And I appreciate that. And, we just sat there and he's like, you mean to tell me you've been a CEO for 25 years and you got nothing to talk about? You have nothing to write about. Like, it's like, give me a break. Yeah.
Very matter of fact, right? Very matter of fact.
Yes, very, very much. So I left there. I just drove back within a couple months. Now I have 7 books, wrote a book. I again, like I said, 7 books now. So Dan took me down that path really of coaching and helping me truly find who I am, going after doing the research of who my true family is, which is all very healthy and healing for me. So they're all based through Nashville up to Louisville, Kentucky.
Wow. And by the way, you just said that you've written 7 books. You've published 7 books.
I have 7 business books. Yes.
Unbelievable. What's the most recent book that you published?
Marketing Masters.
Marketing Masters. Okay. Where
can Marketing Masters. You can grab that on Amazon. It's right on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Yes. With all of my, 2 books are not, there are 2 books that I saved that I give out to my community that I don't sell on there. And I've also started writing my memoir. I started that 2 years ago and I've made a commitment that I will get it finished this year.
Incredible. And so, folks, we are Infinity X. We're joined by Connie Pheiff, the CEO of the Talent Concierge. So, Connie, when you addressed the Georgia, was it the Female Entrepreneurs Council of Georgia or
Georgia Women's Council?
The Georgia Women's Council. What was the subject matter that you talked about in terms of, what was the mastery that you brought to them on that stage?
I talked about my story. And I talked about, just growing up with my grandmother, becoming an entrepreneur at a very young age, not realizing that that's what I did. Becoming a corporate executive at the age of 16. My grandmother died shy of my 16th birthday. So quitting school, like I said, I was fighting that along the way anyway. So she had passed, and I used to sit and pray, like, don't force me to quit school. And to this day, I say that was an answer to my prayers. As sometimes as bad as that sounds, but I do believe that it was. So all through high school, it was a bit of a rocky road. I stayed with different people, couch surfer, and, ended up back with mom and dad, but didn't stay very long. It wasn't a happy relationship there. And then I got married at 19 and then divorced at 26. So my personal side, wasn't a happy place for a lot of years. And so I really focused on my career.
That's what I was about to say. So the escape was career, right?
Right.
And and was the summit that you, and the speech that you get, not even the speech, but just the conversation that you had with the Georgia Women's Council, was that what vaulted and launched Talent Concierge?
No.
So what happened?
No, we didn't even get there. Okay, so all right. Because that's what I said. We needed a long time.
Let's get into it.
So let's get into it. So that did launch me as a speaker, as an author, because I met Dan after that. It was like a week later. But that is really what set the platform for me. But what had happened, how I got to Talent Concierge. So Pheiff Group was around, like I said, for about 10, 12 years. I became a speaker. I was on the road, I don't know how many speeches a year, writing, doing a lot of shows. I started my own podcast. I had been podcasting for over 9.5 years. I just gave that up about 6 months ago, only because I'm doing something else. And so, it just kept growing and growing. And then my husband had the opportunity with his company to move to Los Angeles. And I said, let's go.
Right.
Let's do it. I'm ready to go. So we got to Los Angeles, and I had such the epiphany of, I got to go to a Grammys party, and it was really exciting. I was still like starstruck, and get to meet all of these celebrities. And so I go to this party, and the person who took me as her date, she had to go do her thing because she was nominated for a Grammy. So I'm like, hey, I'm cool. Like, I'll go hang out. So all of these celebrities and entertainers, and they started coming to me and talking to me, and they wanted to know more about me. And so I went over to her, and I said, to Debbie, and I said, what did you tell them that I do? That they want to talk to me. She said, I told them that you're a manager. So it was like,
so they wanted to come to inquire more about it pertaining you for your services, or?
Right, because you have to remember they're entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And they're looking for their next gig too.
So who were some people that were coming up to speak to you?
Well, I'm not supposed to say who was at the parties, but
okay, got it. All right. But A-listers, I would imagine.
They were A-listers there. Yes. So shortly after that, so I kept that, like, I kept thinking about that. And shortly after that, and then Lonnie Park, I met him, and he played like Reba McEntire and some folks like that. So I could mention him. He actually created my signature music for my show after that. So yeah, so I got to, like I said, like, again, these are people on my speed dial that I could just call and say, hey, I need something. So I got sick. I lost my voice. I had no voice for over 6 months.
Oh my God. Was it nodes or something like that? Or what was it?
Well, they weren't sure, but could you imagine this with no voice?
No. Got it.
There was none. And I had speaking engagements, and I'm going to them, and I'm, emailing them and saying, look, I have no voice. If you have time, like, find somebody else. And they're like, no, we want you. And you're going to laugh. So my hairdresser, who got to know my keynotes really good, because I would always be like, sitting in the chair and rehearsing. So I said, Tammy, I said, guess what we're going to do? I said, you're going with me.
So you enlisted your hairdresser. Unbelievable.
I enlisted my hairdresser, took her to some of them. And so she was up there with the note cards, and she would literally be reading. So we turned it into more of a Q&A.
Sure. Okay.
And so she was my interpreter for me.
And what were you speaking on at this point? Who were you addressing? What was the audience, and what were you speaking to?
It was still about business, but my signature speech was sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? Because that's awesome. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay, so I'm dying.
Yeah, that was my life in my 20s. Okay, so graduate high school, I get married, I get divorced, and that's when I started living life. So for several years, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll for me. And so that became my signature speech. And that's what I talked about. But again, sharing my story and how I focused on my career, not so much on my personal life, but then I finally was able to bring it all together. So that was my story. And that story I still will at times, because I speak, and as my give back every year, I'll do some what I call my give backs. I'll speak at women's prisons, foster care agencies or adoption agencies. So that they are my give backs, and I will give that speech. And there is a little book that I've written for that I give that as my giveaway.
Incredible.
And that's a speech that I share, through all the trials and tribulations that I went through and the abuse and things as a kid. So I share that in that story. So that's what I was doing. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But I always brought it back to business. And at one point, I actually set out to interview 50 of the top business women. It ended up being men as well. But every single woman that I talked to, this was the thing that amazed me. Every single woman that I talked to, they all had a backstory. Every one of them had a backstory. And again, when you take a look at that, and you take a look at the theme of that, and even the guys, when I started interviewing the guys, and the ones that had a backstory, they're the ones that fight harder today to get to where they are.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so that was pretty incredible doing that. So I still have a lot of those interviews.
The why motivator, right, Connie? It's like it's what gets you up. The most successful that I've run across, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful business owners always have a burning desire to accomplish their why. Right. And
yes,
they wake up and are reminded, they create a reminder for themselves in one way, shape, or form. I'll tell you, I'll be vulnerable for a moment. You know what my why is? Target. Because there was a time in my life when I went to Target with my family, right? And the debit card didn't work because it was drafted. And now I get to go to Target. Right. I get to, so I go there every chance that I get, because I never, ever, ever want to have the feeling that I felt that day, but I will never forget that feeling. And that's what keeps honest to God, that's what keeps me motivated, and this is,
I have a lot of those feelings.
Obviously a long time ago. Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
As a single mom, I have a lot of those. Yeah, I had a lot of those. There are days I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I had $10 in my bank account. I was working at my parents. They had a bar restaurant, and my kids, my ex was a fireman, so he would work for 4 days and be off for the 4 days. So he would have the kids on his 4 days off. So when they were gone, I was working. And every tip that I would make, whatever I would make working at the restaurant, whether I was bartending or cooking or whatever I was doing. And I went into our tip jar for my kids and I would say, this is your money. This is what you get for the week. So if you want those brand new sneakers, mama's got to go to work a little bit more.
I know. You know, I remember, and I share that from a personal standpoint because, you know, I was in the corporate rat race for an extended period of time as well. And it served me zero. It served zero. And when it finally chewed me up and spit me out, right, it was right around the same time that my wife was pregnant with my first child. And here I am thrust into building out a new brand and a new business, right? And I can remember those days like, oh my God, am I going to be able to put gas in my car? Oh my God, am I going to be able to put groceries, you know, put food on the table, for God's sake, you know? But it's those, you know, if you look in you know, in the rear view, but you don't stare at it, you know, you just keep that little subtle reminder, that little subtle edge. I think that's what, that's what elevates the good to great, you know, and, you know, folks, we are Infinity X stage and microphone with human excellence. We're joined by none other than Connie Pheiff, the CEO of the Talent Concierge, and replay on weareinfinityx.com and YouTube. And so Connie, so now you're in Los Angeles, right? And you're having conversations with, you know, having conversations with celebrities, right? You're sharing your story and your story of perseverance on stages all over the place. You lose your voice, and then you have to go through with your hairdresser in order to convey the message. When entrepreneurs, or, you know, or actors or celebrities started to retain you, what were some of the consulting services that you were providing to them?
Well, it's primarily business, how to build a business, and why I started doing it. And that's how Talent Concierge came to be, because me going out and speaking really wasn't going to happen because I lost some lung capacity from getting sick. So it was business. I sat with that and I thought, gee, like, what is it that they're missing? What is it that they don't realize that they're missing? They're looking for their next gig, but what about everything else in between? And that's when I started connecting the dots and really looking at, you know, what I call, you know, the different layers of an entrepreneur, and they want to create. And they want to go right to putting that money in the bank. But what does that business model look like? How are you creating those dollars to get that in the bank? How are you doing the deals? The biggest one is the deals, because even when I was speaking, I would come across people like sleeping on airport benches because they didn't make enough money from their gig. So they were at a loss for money. How could you be at a loss for money? That means you didn't ask for enough money. The contracts weren't done correctly. They weren't done properly. So going back to how I started, you know, initially, like 16 years ago, it was surrounding myself. So I have a legal team, finance team now, you know, just have these team of experts around me that I can go to and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is what we're doing. How could we provide the best advice for them? You know, even from media and so on, because they just want to get out. You know, the athletes just want to play, the actors and the entertainers, they just want to do their thing, even corporate executives. And again, I was a corporate executive, but stepping out into this type of platform is totally different. Yeah. So the biggest and the number one services we provide to them is business, but we still go into the way deep into the mindset of what it looks like to build an everlasting, evergreen business. So then you can continue doing what you love to do.
And so the Talent Concierge was formed exactly when, and Connie, if you would, for the good folks that have joined us this evening, it's entrepreneurs, it's folks that are looking to build in different business verticals. What exactly is the Talent Concierge?
So we have Talent Concierge agency, and then we have Talent Concierge business. So the business side, the business vertical, that's the education. So in the education, so these individuals, they come to us for the business. So we're teaching them how the business. Then the next phase of that is They want to grow as an influencer. They want to grow and be a speaker on the main stage. They want to get the big book deals. They want the big endorsements. So in order to get that, there's an education component on the business side that we have to get into place first. So the business side of Talent Concierge Business is the education. So we're coming off a summit this month. The theme was storytellers. So with storytellers, how do you get up there and give a keynote where your audience is engaging? So we've had some of the best athletes go or celebrities go, and they're just going to show up because of name recognition, right?
Sure. Yeah. I've seen that.
And right. And they'll bomb. They'll bomb. And then the promoters or the meeting planners are like, oh, I should have thought twice on that one, because they could be great. Like they have the name recognition, but if they don't come and really give a really good story, or they're really receptive of the audience, but we go all the way down to how do they wear, how do they act, how do they show up. We give that entire training to them. And when they go to one of these places, and we tell them, when you go there, you are now an employee of them. They are paying you to be there. So we even talk about ego. So there is no egos allowed here. That we don't bring them here. I say that jokingly because we've had many of those conversations.
It's so funny too, Connie, not to interrupt, but a few months ago, I was fortunate enough to have a former professional football player, Marcus Ogden, on the show, and he talked about the transition from when his NFL playing career ended into the next phase, which was a business that he launched, and unfortunately it kind of went south on him because there was poor planning. And so he said, okay, well, you know what? I have star power. My brother's one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time. I played in the NFL. I'm going to go out and public speak. And his, and I think he got paid like $2,500 or something like that to go to a specific college. And he delivered his speech, and he said it was one of his proudest moments. But I said, well, how was the speech? He was like, it was horrible. It was like, yeah, I literally walked away. If I look at that now and say, I brought no value, and in comparison, what he's speaking for, Morgan Stanley and major corporations, but
you have to bring value to them, right? So they want that. They want the relevance. They want you to be educational. They want you to be entertaining. So we work with Joel Green, a former basketball player. He does a lot of work now. He does training camps with Nike. So, he's out there and he's doing it. But so now he's written a book, and so now he wants to take it to the next level of speaking. So that's all of that education and programming, not programming, but programs that we're offering him. So the business side, again, that's the program. I always say up because we're taking them up and we're continuing and rolling them up to a new level. And then the agency, that's the representation side, or what we call our TC1. That's our 1% powerhouse level agency. When you get there, there is a qualification aspect to it. So when you get there, so now we're teaching you how to fish. When you get into the agency, we're fishing for you. So now we are booking you for the speaking. We are going after those endorsements. We're getting you the media coverage. Endorsements, speaking, media, so we're getting all of those interviews. So we're getting that for you. And we also talk about how do you create opportunities with the $1 million results.
Wow. Okay.
And
could you share a couple of golden nuggets around how you create some of those opportunities, Connie?
Sure. I just want to add there too. So in that level, we also have TCO, which is Talent Concierge Leadership.
Okay.
And again, that's just a mastermind that they get inside of that. And it's all about leadership and self-leadership. And so there's a big component around that. How for opportunities, and again, we're really, because I'm in a couple of different mastermind boards myself. So just sitting with some of these money people. And so I go to a lot of these type events, and look at what opportunities are out there in the community. And so, sit at the table with them. I'll bring some of that information back to my community, or I'll invite these folks that are looking to invest in some great ideas or opportunities. We'll bring them back into the group and have these money meetings, and we'll talk about different opportunities that are out there. Whether it be tech deals, right now there's a lot of tech deals, sure. But tech deals, real estate, some crowdfunding that's happening there. So, it's really just being in the midst of where all of these deals are happening. So, like I said, I do make myself present where a lot of these conversations are happening. So that's where we get some inside information on it.
Incredible. Folks, we are Infinity X, stage and microphone with human excellence. We're joined this evening by Connie Pheiff and the Talent Concierge. And so let's talk a little bit from a diversification standpoint, Connie, around some of the value proposition of what you bring to various entrepreneurs. Who are some, and without specifically going to names, who are some, what are some avatars, and who are some avatars that your brand is now working with or is focusing on building out and working with?
Okay. I like to use a pro athlete. They're my favorite one to use. So I like to, the avatar there is an athlete, male or female, but an athlete that is looking, or they know that they're going to be leaving their career in about 2 to 4 years.
Okay.
So they're looking at it and saying, okay, I know I'm going to be leaving. Now, where do I go? And so that is a perfect time to start speaking to us, because that's when, they start looking at, those opportunities, because they're getting some big bucks. Are they going to go blow it and then be bankrupt in a year and then have nothing? Or be,
yep.
And right. And you hear about it all the time, right?
Absolutely.
Or are they going to be smart about it and look at some investment deals, look at some other ways on how they can manage that and do that? And then, share that information, share it through their speaking, share it through their writing. Of course, at that level, again, that avatar for an athlete, they want to write their memoir. They want to get out and speak. They want to know where they're going to be investing their money, investing their dollars. Even down to, we always talk about where our avatar lives. They are on the southern borders of the U.S. All of the coastal cities, and we looked at that a couple of years ago, and we were like, oh, that is really interesting. I say not all, but 90% of our clients live on the coastal borders, on all of the ocean cities, even in Puerto Rico now. That's where most of our clientele are. And so that's our avatar. For a female avatar, even have that broken down. I really enjoy working with women who are athletic. My avatar, her name is Pat, and she's actually a real person. But she's been an executive. And she's at the point now where she's saying to herself, is this all there is in life? I have made, a lot of money. I need to know how to invest it better. The kids are out of the house, in college, married, but still not quite sure if it's the career that she really wanted to be in. And she really wants to expand. She wants to write that book. She wants to be in other networking and groups with other successful women. And that's our 7-figure women mastermind that we have. And that's where a lot of our women in that group come and say that, yes, I could have a conversation with another successful woman without being judged, without feeling that there's competition with somebody else, because women do tend to be a little bit more competitive with each other than men do. Sorry to say that, but we do.
Yeah. And listen, and I hear that frequently, but What are some common mistakes that you're seeing whether they're celebrities, they're athletes, what are some common mistakes that you're seeing when they're trying to scale up their level of influence? Whether it's in the social space or in a different vertical, but what are some mistakes that you see people making right now?
That they can do it themselves, especially when they have a name. Especially, if they're known. And there's some very successful people that if I threw out a name, you would be like, I have no idea who that is, but they're very successful. The biggest mistakes that they do, I'm guilty of it, and I mentioned it before, I don't need a coach. I've been successful. I know how to do it myself. That is the biggest mistake that anyone trying to step up, work up that vertical can make. I don't go without a coach. I have 3 of them right now for different purposes, but you need to have someone around you that is not just holding you accountable, but they'll be able to show you a path and have you look at things a different way. I mentioned Dan Miller. I can pick up the phone and call Dan and say, Dan, I was thinking about this. What do you think? And he's so he's like a philosopher to me. And and he'll say, do you sit on a 3-legged stool with that? We have this 3-legged stool thing. So when you want to throw something else on, does it balance on your 3-legged stool? If it doesn't balance on your 3-legged stool, then throw it out the window. It doesn't fit.
That's incredible. That's unbelievable. Yeah. And by the way, speaking of coaching, who are some of your staff members? Because you have a pretty prestigious set of coaches that are actively working with you at Talent Concierge.
Yes. Most of the people we represent. so when they come in, not only are we working with them and coaching them, but we also, again, going back to creating opportunities. So as we get new people coming in or people, not as seasoned, we will match them with our coaches. So we have some pretty heavy duty coaches like Angela Cusack. She is just amazing. And she's a lot of different certifications. She's with the International Coaching Federation. She trains coaches who coach. She's like this high, like in the coaching, and I coach her. So so we have different coaches for different things, right? But yeah, she's phenomenal. Jim Cathcart is phenomenal. Jim is a Hall of Fame speaker. He was one of the first. He is a certified speaking professional. He's given like 4,200 speeches. He's written 22 books. The people that are in my circle, I am just like in awe of them, like that they want to hang out with me. I'm like,
you're interesting as hell. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, your life story and everything that you've done is incredible.
But we just have some phenomenal. I mean, I could just keep going down the list. Steven Shapiro, he wanted to be a game show host when he was a kid, and now he brings that in to his program with what he does. Mike Rayburn. Mike is, oh my gosh, he plays the guitar like it's butter. I like, you don't even like see his fingers moving, and like he plays his guitar, and then he tells a story around it. And that's the one thing, and we talked about this recently, that all of these people that I work with, and we're saying how like I never went down the road that people wanted me to go down. I was like, nah, I'm going over here. And I did not coin the phrase the crazy ones, but I do own that trademark. And I say, I do. And I say, we work with the crazy ones that change the world, because they do, because these are the people that truly think out of the box. They truly, again, like Mike, like I said, he plays an instrument like nothing else, but his love is to play that and tell a story as a keynoter. And his wife, she's like just complements everything he does. And just incredible. Daryl Woodhouse. Daryl's in the UK. He talks about stress, but again, he just does it in a way that when you're done, like you have no stress in your body and you have no clue what he just did to you.
And do they rotate? You know, so if let's say that I'm a professional football player and do I get rotational coaching with Talent Concierge, or am I assigned one specific coach based upon personality trait?
We try to match it up. So we start with pods.
Okay.
Unless they want to be with me one-on-one, then it's a high ticket because I pulled because my time is really getting precious. So if I do one-on-one, could I say how much? If I do one-on-one, it's $35,000 for 4 hours.
And I'm not, folks, you heard that.
Oh, okay. I'm not selling anything. I'm just saying that.
Listen, time. My partner always says it. Things I must earn. Right. You want to earn. If you want to earn Connie's time, it's $35,000 for 4 hours. Right.
Right.
But fees are an issue in the absence of value. Right. So you're going to be receiving massive value there. But.
So I give a full value. Like I'm totally on. But so when somebody comes in, we'll start in a pod. So our pod's like 4 to 6 people, but we'll mix those pods up. So we definitely have a mix in there because it's not just the coach giving them value, it's what they're learning from each other as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're not going to put 4 athletes together. We're going to, maybe we'll put an athlete, a corporate executive, we'll mix it up. And again, remember, I'm certified in a whole bunch of personality assessments, so I could quickly look at somebody and have a conversation with you, and I could kind of tell where you fit. But when we start going deeper, I will actually have you take a personality assessment.
Sure.
So, so then we can mix it up that way. So so we'll start in pods. And so we'll have a coach work with you, the same coach work with you for 6 months, and then we'll shift to another coach. Okay. So, we might shift or, depending a project somebody's working on or what they're doing, or somebody needs extra help working on their keynote, or somebody needs extra help. They want to get certified as a coach. Now, I do want to preface that you don't need to be certified as a coach to be a coach. Okay. I just wanted to preface that, but it's good. I know, like I said, for me, it was like, I have a piece of paper now. I could say, I know what I'm talking about. So it's good to have that. So then again, if that's something that you want, then we can match you up like with Angela to be your coach for that.
And these pods, they're I would assume run on Zoom, right? But you're also
all on Zoom.
Got it. And now you're also doing some live events. And so what are some of the things that you're up to right now? Like, what do you have coming in June as an example?
So in June, that is virtual. So in June, we're doing a summit that's going to be June 6th to the 10th, and that is Conquer Your Entrepreneurial Dreams. So I'm going to be interviewing 30 speakers. It's 5 days, 30 speakers. And then the following week, I always do follow that up with 8 days revenue challenge. And then the third week, I always close out the series with sales, because everybody always misses sales, and list build. Because if you don't build your list, you don't have a business. So everybody always wants to go to social media. Social media is where you engage. Building your list is where you enroll. That's your rule of.
Folks, I hope if you got anything, if you write that down. Connie, can you repeat that one more time?
Social media is where you engage with people. Building a list is your buyer's list, and that's where you enroll your customers.
Incredible. We are Infinity X, bringing value each and every single week with human excellence, folks. This is Connie Pheiff, the CEO of the Talent Concierge. And Connie, we're coming up at the top of the hour right now, but I want to conclude with 2 things. Number one is that's what you're up to now, but what does the overall future of the Talent Concierge look like? What's your vision?
Okay. And there's always something. So I do have a passion project, and that is Born Life Foundation. And the Born Life Foundation, the benefactors of that are young adults who are aging out of the foster care system. Yeah. I was never in foster care. That's a question I always get. No, but the way I was raised sometimes felt that way. But it just pulls at my heart. And again, living in Los Angeles, to see so many young kids living on the streets, I would go sit with them and have conversations with them. And that's what was happening. They age out of the system, no direction, and they get into drugs. Girls get pregnant or whatever, there is no future for them. So I started the Born Life Foundation, and the intent of the foundation, or what the foundation does, is a 365 mentor program where we connect our talent to these young adults.
Wow.
And we give them the tools. We show them that there is a path forward. So, through, the technology of music or film writing. We have producers in the program. We have film editors. We have musicians. And again, business. So everybody that we represent, that is one piece that, it's not demanded. It's not heavily demanded of them, but we ask them to participate. And they do. And they truly do, because they also want to support and give.
Absolutely.
It's a cause.
Who could not get behind a cause like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Talent Concierge has been named the agency with heart for the last couple of years by meeting planners, because of the work that we do for our talent, and also the work that we do for these kids. So we do live events. We do an annual showcase. Of course, last year it was virtual. So this year we're planning it to go back live. And so we're going to make a decision really quick here, whether it's going to go back to Nashville or Miami. So that's what we've been playing with. And then during that showcase, all of our talent, plus others, are invited to participate. And there's always a cost, of course, are invited to participate. You come, you get training ahead of time, you get up there and you knock it out, whether it's a keynote, whether it's singing, entertaining, whatever your gift is that you want the world to see. We've been doing this years before COVID even happened. We were streaming it around the globe. In 2017, I think it was, we actually crashed the internet because we had over 800,000 promoters and meeting planners trying to register within 24 hours, and it took our system down. God. Of course, at the time I had a meltdown. Yeah. I was like, get this up.
Listen, crashing the, I mean, I don't even have the words for that. I mean, that's like, I'm hoping that Infinity X is going to crash the internet one day too, but
I had a lot of choice words.
Folks, Connie, listen, I get such a kick out of you, and I know I see myself in your future, and because we've already had conversation about how, our company and Epic could be a resource with what you're up to and the consulting that you're doing for the entrepreneurs and for the business owners and for the influencers out there. And I'm super excited to develop that further. Folks, pay attention. What we're going to be doing with Connie's organization is going to be really, really exciting. Financial education, planning, all of the above. But Connie, for the good folks who joined us this evening, who are looking to level up their influence, who are looking to level up their brand, who are looking to get more monetization off of their brand, which is the area of a massive expertise that Talent Concierge brings, where can they find you, and what are some programs that they ought to be taking a look at?
Well, they could just look for Talent Concierge on all the social platforms. Talentconcierge.co is the website. And so you can go on there, and also you can find out a lot of our programs and learn more about me and my background at Connie Pheiff, PHEIFF.com. You can go on there as well. And so there's a lot of programs there. Could I make a free offer?
Please do.
Okay. So free offer. If you go to Teachable, the Teachable platform, and type in brand activation 10X, I jumped in there today and I priced it to $0. And that is our brand program. It's 2 years old that it's been up there, but it'll give you that starting place of building your brand. It talks about the aspects of an entrepreneur and who you are in terms of a realizer, an integrator, a visionary, and an explorer. So all those 4 aspects are all listed out in there. It gives you daily success tools to keep yourself motivated, because you want to coach yourself to success. Nothing happens. You can hire the best coach in the world, but unless you're coaching yourself, nothing's going to happen. So all of that and all of those tools are in there in Brand Activation 10X.
Incredible. Folks, if you are not taking advantage of literally that free offer that was just provided out to you to receive, to have proximity to somebody like Connie and her team, get coaching, you're probably doing your brand and yourself a disservice. And folks, we are Infinity X Stage and Microphone. We've had the good fortune of having Connie Pheiff, CEO of the Talent Concierge, on our stage for the last hour. We could go another hour, but unfortunately the time is up. But Connie, I just cannot thank you for spending the time with us this evening. It was massively value added. What you're up to is incredible. And I'm super excited about the work that we're going to be able to do together as we move forward. So thank you so much for joining me this evening.
I am as well. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Incredible. Folks, we are Infinity X replay. We are infinityx.com and YouTube. Each and every single Tuesday, we continue to pursue human excellence. Tonight was no different. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Until next week, we are Infinity X saying good night and have a wonderful evening.